All right, we're going to pick back up in Codeword Barbelon 666, Danger in the Vatican. Book 1, The Sons of Laloya and Their Plans for World Domination by P.D. Stuart. We are in chapter 37. Excuse me. Oh. The Rhodes Gang, Instruments of the Round Table. I know the operations of this network because I have studied it for 20 years. Jesuit Professor Quigley. The astute reader cannot but recognize the source and purpose of the Rhodes-Milner plot. Let us examine this Orwellian-like plan more closely. We learn from Professor Quigley and the Chicago Tribune that the following well-known international organizations, or, quote, network, unquote, most of which are secretive organizations, were set up under the Rhodes-Milner scheme. The Times, the Bilderberg Group, America's Bohemian Grove Club, Club of Rome, Council on Foreign Relations, Neurocam International, Rhodes-Milner Roundtable Groups, the Round Table, Royal Institute of International Affairs, aka Chatham House, Trilateral Commission, and the United Nations, UN. These are some of the instruments which Professor Quigley says are at the disposal of the Rhodes Secret Society. He tells us that in New York, the Round Table Group was known as the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR. These roundtable instruments, says Quigley, were designed to promulgate the idea of the formation of a federal or one world government, based on the notion of the unification of the British Empire and the United States of America. This British-American reunification lark is a ruse in the best Jesuit tradition. The reader will recall that Quigley, a Jesuit, tells us that the constitution of the Round Table, the Council of Foreign Relations, and those many organizations funded by the Rhodes Wills, such as the Rhodes Scholarship Fund, etc., are all based on the constitutions of the Jesuits, with the words Roman Catholic Church merely being replaced by British Empire. These institutions are little more than actors in a puppet show. The reader may wish to consult Larry Abraham's Call It a Conspiracy, a well-documented expose of the CFR. It has been intimated that General Booth, founder of the Salvation Army, played a role in the Rhodes Round Table Group. There are also claims that Sherry Blair, wife of former Prime Minister Tony Blair, is an ancestor of Mr. Booth, and the notorious John Wilkes Booth. That's just a side. The following reports, clipped from the Chicago Tribune, are particularly worthy of mention. In the July 15th, 1951 issue, the Tribune ran an article by William Fulton entitled Rhodes Ideals Slant State Department Policies, subtitled Key Post Held by Oxford Scholars. It read, key positions in the United States Department of State are held by a network of American Rhodes Scholars. Rhodes Scholars are men who obtain supplemental education and indoctrination at Oxford University, with the bills paid by the estate of Cecil John Rhodes. Rhodes wrote about his ambition to cause the ultimate recovery of the United States of America as an integral part of the British Empire. This is a euphemism for Roman Catholic Church. His intimates have admitted the scholarships were established for the primary purpose of instilling political bias rather than providing education. The same newspaper, July 16, 1951, William Fulton wrote another article, Rhodes, Ideas Find Fertile Ground in UN, subtitled Scholars Advanced British Schemes. New York, July 1st. American Rhodes Scholars, men who have received education and indoctrination at Oxford University, England, are prominent in the affairs of the United Nations. The UN is an outgrowth of schemes developed by the scholar's patron, Cecil Rhodes. In his writings, The Diamond Despot of South Africa showed he hoped the scholarships would promote his grandiose idea. 32 American collegians go to Oxford each year under terms of Rhodes' will. And in the Tribune of July 19th, 1951, in an article titled Rhodes, Ward's Hawk Global Scheme in U.S., subtitled Peddle Propaganda for One World, Fulton reported, New York, July 19th. Rhodes scholars returning from schooling and indoctrination at Oxford University, England, are the principal hawkers of globalist propaganda in the United States. Previous articles in this series have disclosed that many of the 1,185 living American Rhodes Scholars have obtained key positions in the State Department, the United Nations, the Economic Cooperation Administration, and other government agencies where they have worked toward fulfillment of the schemes of their imperial patron. I have devoted an entire chapter on the occult origin of the philosophy of the UN in Volume 2 to this work. It will suffice here to quote the following statement from Jesuit-trained David Spangler, Director of Planetary Initiative for the United Nations. No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. I must also mention that the Lucis Trust, previously called the Lucifer Publishing Company, has the responsibility of managing the meditation room at the United Nations building in New York. To return to the writings of Carroll Quigley, Professor Quigley personally confirmed the existence of the network of helpers behind the Rhodes scheme. I know of the operations of this network because I have studied it for 20 years and was permitted for 2 years in the early 1960s to examine its papers and secret records. I have, for much of my life, been close to it and to many of its instruments. It wishes to remain unknown. I believe its role in history is significant enough to be known. What are these instruments to which Quigley refers? According to Quigley, Rhodes and his mentor Steed agreed to make Washington, D.C. the capital of the whole organization or allow parts of the empire to become states of the American Union. If Washington was to be the seat of the Rhodes Jesuit-like secret society, could it be that the Jesuits controlled Washington through their acolytes, Messrs. Clinton and Bush? Quigley writes further in his renowned and very remarkable work, Tragedy and Hope, that the Rhodes Society of the Elect was formally established in 1891, and that its outer circle, known as the Association of Helpers, was later organized by Lord Milner as the Round Table. Money for their activities originally came from Cecil Rhodes, J.P. Morgan, the Rockefellers, and Whitney families, and associates of bankers Lazard Brothers and Morgan, Greenfell and Company. These are the banking corporations that run America's economy today and are just a few of the instruments of which Quigley speaks. As Will Banyan observes in his 6-part series, Rockefeller internationalism, because of the many secret societies he spawned, Mr. Rhodes could proudly claim the accolade, modern heir to Adam Weishaupt, Jesuit, founder of the Bavarian Illuminati. Indeed, Weishaupt taught his disciples that the agencies of his order were never to be known by their real identities, but always under other names. The John Birch Pilgrim Society. I beg the reader's indulgence to dwell a little longer on these secret connections. In the final stages of my research for this volume, I came across a document titled The Belmont Brotherhood. It alleges that most of the founding members of the John Birch Society were high-ranking Freemasons and members of the Rhodes Scheme. This document further alleges that the John Birch Society was the foundation for another society known as the Pilgrim Society, and that both of these societies have their origins in the Cecil Rhodes Milner Round Table Group of Great Britain and are the elite of the elite. The Pilgrim Society was founded, or rather set up, in 1902, just 4 months after Rhodes died, which is when his wills would have taken effect. The Pilgrims' first international dinner was held in 1903. As then today, the members and guests at its dinners are diplomats, high-ranking soldiers, or other men of distinction in many fields, like Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. The patron of this Pilgrim Society is none other than Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Notably, several key persons who were at the secret meeting in 1913, which formed the privately owned American Central Bank, aka the Federal Reserve, were also pilgrims. And of course, J.P. Morgan, George F. Baker, John D. Rockefeller, Jacob Schiff, and Tony Blair were members also. Further, it is known that the Pilgrim Society runs institutions such as Barclays, National Westminster, HSBC Bank Group, and Standard Chartered Bank Group, etc. In this way, the Rhodes Pilgrim Society is truly here and everywhere. Speaking of the power of the Pilgrim Society at the House of Commons on August 20th, 1941, Winston Churchill, a Pilgrim member, said no one could stop it. Some say that not just Masonic, but also Templar and Rosicrucian influences can be found within the Pilgrim Society. The Pilgrim Society is also an arm of Skull and Bones. Francis F. Randolph of the Pilgrim Society was the treasurer of the Russell Trust, which is the official corporate name of Skull and Bones. In November 2006, Pope Benedict XVI invited CFR member Henry Kissinger, who is a member of the Masonic Pilgrim Society and a former U.S. Secretary of State to Richard Nixon, to be his political advisor. The 83-year-old Nobel laureate was offered the high-profile role during a private audience with the Pope and will be on the Papal Advisory Board for Foreign and Political Affairs. Curiously, and perhaps no more than curiosity, Pope Benedict, once a member of Hitler Youth under the Nazi regime, and Henry Kissinger are not only close in age, but both were born in Bavaria, the home of Adam Weishaupt's Illuminati. Incidentally, Mr. Kissinger, like Adam Weishaupt and Jesuit founder Ignatius Loyola, is a Jew. Rhodes' plan to control the media. Rhodes gave explicit instructions that his secret society should own portions of the America press. The reader will recall that in his 1877 Confession of Faith, Rhodes wrote that he envisaged his secret society owning portions of the press, for the press rules the mind of the people. The Jesuit Quigley told us that one arm of Rhodes's society has been known at various times as the Times crowd, and that in 1983, the Times newspaper had 6 Rhodes scholars on its board. I now highlight for your attention the following statement of John Swinton, former head of the editorial staff in the New York Times, then the preeminent New York journalist and called by his peers the dean of his profession. This is what he said to his colleagues at a New York press club. There is no such thing at this date of the world's history in America as an independent press. I am paid weekly for keeping my honest opinion out of the paper. I am connected with, and that's something. Others of you are paid similar salaries for similar things. And any of you who would be so foolish as to write honest opinions would be out on the streets looking for another job. The business of the journalist is to destroy the truth, to lie outright. We are the tools and vassals of rich men behind the scenes. We are the jumping jacks. They pull the strings and we dance. We are intellectual prostitutes. And Naum Chomsky, the distinguished linguist, observed, the raw material of news must pass through successive filters, leaving only the cleaned residue fit to print. It is the Jesuit Illuminati who controls most of the media, who act the part of information caddies. As Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said, think of the press as a great keyboard on which the government can play. We must go back to Professor Quigley to appreciate the extent of this media control. Quigley makes this stunning statement. The American branch of this English establishment, the Round Table, extended much of its influence through 5 American newspapers: the New York Times, New York Herald Tribune, Christian Science Monitor, the Washington Post, and the lamented Boston Evening Transcript. In England, they controlled the Times of London and then the editorship of the Observer. The Times News Group is owned by the Astor family. We saw that the strategy to control the media was expressly provided for by Rhodes' Confession of Faith. Thus, when on February 17, 1950, CFR member James Warburg, architect of the Federal Reserve System, told a Senate Foreign Relations Committee, we shall have one world government whether or not you like it, by conquest or consent. The media remained silent. And in April 1974 issue of the CFR Journal, Foreign Affairs, page 558, Richard N. Gardner stated that the new world order will be built. It will end national sovereignty, eroding it piece by piece, will accomplish much more than the old-fashioned frontal assault. Again, the media was mute. Now, note carefully the following statement attributed to David Rockefeller at the June 1991 Bilderberg meeting in Baden, Germany, attended by then Governor Bill Clinton. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. The world is more prepared to march towards a world government. The supernatural sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries. The reason for the media silence during those years was, as Rockefeller said, it would have been impossible for us, an intellectual elite or Illuminati, to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity. The American media, by and large, are no more than stenographers of the secret government owned and controlled by the Rhodes Society. Want of space precludes us from adding more about this very interesting subject, but history has indeed shed much light on this subversive Lilloyan society called the Round Table, the Milner Kindergarten, the Times Crowd, etc. Why, you ask, do seemingly nice guys like Bill Clinton and apparently straight-laced men such as George Bush become complacent to this, not complacent, but complicit in this Illuminati Jesuit conspiracy? In one word, power. I say two words, they're evil. These men have sold their souls, so to speak, to exchange for a small share of power with their unknown superiors. Samuel Blumenfeld, quoting Bill Clinton's mentor, Carol Quigley, confirms this. Obviously, the way the Rhodes Secret Society would recruit its future leaders from among the Rhodes Scholars was to dangle before them the prospect of future advancement in whatever field they chose to pursue, be it education, politics, government, foundation work, finance, journalism, etc. Thus, if you understood the implicit message being given to you by your sponsors, you might one day become president at Harvard, president of the United States, a Supreme Court judge, a U.S. senator, or president of the Carnegie Foundation. The road to fame and fortune was open as long as you played the game and obeyed the rules. The Association of American Rhodes Scholars has an alumni membership of about 1,600. They have become leading figures in the new ruling elite in America. Thus, we note that it was after attending the 1991 Bilderberg meeting that Clinton, who at the time was virtually unknown senator from the backwaters of Little Rock, Arkansas, unexpectedly became a front-running Democratic candidate for the presidency in 1992. Clinton is a member of the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergs, a Rhodes Scholar, and it seems of the Roman Catholic, as he is photographed taking the Catholic Mass, Holy Communion in South Africa, March 28, 1998, at Regina Mundi Roman Catholic Church. It is said that Mr. Clinton was a deep cover CIA agent in the late 1960s while at Oxford, and that his handler at the CIA was none other than the CIA London Bureau Chief, Cord Meyer. Bill Clinton, a spy? There's more, much, much more. The following facts suggest that Clinton's surprise selection in 1992 as the Democratic presidential candidate was rigged. Well, imagine that. Terry Reid, a former USA operative, reveals that Robert P. Johnson, William Barr, told Clinton, "Bill, you are Mr. Casey's fair-haired boy, but you do have competition for the job you seek. We would never put all our eggs in one basket. You and your state, Arkansas, have been our greatest asset. The beauty of this, as you know, is that you're a Democrat, and with our ability to influence both parties, this country can get beyond partisan gridlock. Mr. Casey wanted me to pass on to you that unless you F up and do something stupid, you're number one on the short list for a shot at the job you've always wanted." That job was the presidency of the United States, and he got it. Yes, according to Terry Reid, that was how Mr. Clinton got his job, his promotion to the presidency. As former Jesuit general, Father Peter Hans Klavenbach told his order in 2000. The turn of the millennium finds them in all their diversity. They are better equipped, attracting, hiring, and promoting those who actively share the mission. Walter Walsh reminds us in his great work, The Jesuits in Great Britain, that the mighty and widely ramified order of St. Ignatius was and still is powerful enough to procure by its interest fair greater advantages to individuals than could any other corporation, fraternity, or even secular power. Doubt it not, said Cecil Rhodes, founder of the Rhodes Scholarship. My scholars must all come to my university, Oxford. I am on the lookout for those who will do the governing of the nations in the years to come. The point of all this, are you serious? Shake yourself, rub your eyes, and sniff the smelling salts. Chapter 38, How the Illuminati Took Over Freemasonry. Stage by stage, they assist at the unfolding of the consciousness of the candidate until the time comes when he can enter into light and in his turn become one of the Illuminati who can assist the lodge. Foster, Bailey. It is necessary at this stage to reveal how the marriage between the Jesuit Illuminati and Freemasonry was consummated. The reader will recall that soon after Weishaupt's new order was created in 1776, he wrote, "The great strength of our order, the Illuminati, lies in its concealment. Let it never appear in any place in its own name, but always concealed by another name and another occupation. None is fitter than the lower degrees of Freemasonry. The public is accustomed to it, expect little from it, and therefore take little notice of it." Weishaupt's plan, in his own words, was to conceal the Illuminati within Freemasonry so that it would never appear in any place in its own name, but always concealed by another name and another occupation. The order of the Illuminati was to be a secret society within a secret society par excellence. Weishaupt himself, a Freemason, and knowing the inner workings of that fraternity, was well aware of its potential as a vehicle for the continued operation of his old order. For this purpose, he would use Freemasonry, for, as he said, our order must always remain hidden. Weishaupt's Illuminati would come to be two secret societies in one, Higher Masonry and Jesuitism, for he was a member of both. The Illuminati hierarchy was not only to be modeled on that of the Jesuits, but Weishaupt would set up other higher degrees within Freemasonry, thereby using Freemasonry as the incubator and vehicle for the furtherance of the plans of his new Jesuit order. We read this statement earlier, but it bears repeating. Weishaupt had hinted to several ex-Jesuits the probability of their recovering under a new name, the influence which they formerly possessed. The Masonic lodges has been completely taken over by the Illuminati. I cite the words of one of the Masonry's greatest scholars, D. Albert G. Mackey, in support. To give to the order a higher influence, Weishaupt connected it with the Masonic institution, after whose system of degrees, of esoteric instruction, and of secret modes of recognition it was organized. It extended rapidly into other countries, and its lodges were to be found in France, Belgium, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, Poland, Hungary, and Italy. Because Weishaupt was himself a Freemason, the Illuminati's takeover of the Masonic lodges was seamless. With the Jesuit general already in control of all Masonry, an understanding was reached with the Masonic hierarchy at the Congress of Wilhelmsbad in 1782 to add the Illuminati degrees onto the first three degrees of Freemasonry. Nesta H. Webster writes, and I got his book too. It was not until the Congress de Willemsbad that the alliance between Illuminism and Freemasonry was finally sealed. What passed at this terrible Congress will never be unwittingly into the movement. No, let me see. I think I read that. Will never be known to the outside world, for even those who had been. Did I skip that? I skipped the whole thing. Forgive me. Nesta H. Webster writes, it was not until the Congress de Willemsbad that the alliance between Illuminism and Freemasonry was finally sealed. What passed at this terrible Congress will never be known to the outside world, for even those men who had been drawn unwittingly into the movement and now heard for the first time the real designs of the leaders were under oath to reveal nothing. One such honest Freemason, the Comte de Verrou, a member of Martinston Lodge at Loins, returning from the Congress de Willemsbad, could not conceal his alarm. When questioned on the tragic secrets he had brought back with him, replied, I will not confide them to you. I can only tell you that all this is very much more serious than you think. The conspiracy which is being woven is so well thought out that it will be, so to speak, impossible for the monarchy and for the church to escape from it. Wow. From this time onwards, says his biography, M. Costa de Beauregard, Comte de Verrou could only speak of Freemasonry with horror. What was it that so horrified Comte de Verrou about the Illuminati Masonic Congress de Willemsbad? For that we must wait. After 1782, and possibly even earlier, the Illuminati was able to continue unsuspected with the existing Masonic lodges. And since Masonry is itself a secret society, the Illuminati became a secret society within a secret society. By the time of the Third Masonic Congress in Frankfurt in 1786, the Illuminati virtually controlled all the Masonic lodges, which at that time represented at least 3 million members across the various German provinces, Austria, Hungary, England, Scotland, Poland, France, Belgium, Switzerland, Italy, Holland, Spain, Sweden, Russia, Ireland, Africa, and America. Of course, none of this was known to the rank and file members of the lodges. For as Weishaupt wrote, one must speak sometimes in one way, sometimes in another, so that our real purpose should remain impenetrable to our inferiors. That is by those in the Illuminati's lower rank. This Illuminati Masonic combine was expressly confirmed by the Masonic Grand Pontiff General Albert Pike in a letter of January 22nd, 1870 to Mazzini, his counterpart in Italy. Pike wrote about the creation of a super right, which will remain unknown, to which we will call those Masons of high degree, which we shall select. Through this supreme right, Palladism, we will govern all Freemasonry, which will become the one international center, the more powerful because its direction will be unknown. In other words, this new Masonic rite or degree was to operate incognito, surreptitiously. To this way, Masonry itself of occult origin was to become merely an external manifestation of another secret power. Wow, man. Indeed, this power was so described by Madame Helena Petrova Blavatsky in her work, The Externalization of the Hierarchy. Further proof that Masonry is of the Illuminati is found in Official Masonic Chronology by Arthur E. Waite. On page 421 of a new Masonic encyclopedia, Waite makes the following entry. 1776 Foundation of the Illuminati of Bavaria by Adam Weishaupt on May 1st. Why would Waite list the 1776 founding of Adam Weishaupt's Illuminati in a work meant to deal with the chronology or history of Freemasonry? Here is a simple answer with the high-ranking Masonic author Foster Bailey. Stage by stage, they, the hierarchy, assist at the unfolding of the consciousness of the Masonic candidate until the time comes when he can enter into light and in his turn become one of the Illuminati who can assist the lodge. So we see that Masonry at the highest level admits to being of the Illuminati. When does the Mason enter into this light or illumination? According to Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree, it is when he understands that the knowledge of Lucifer is his dynamo. Do you doubt this? Read that Masonic author Arthur Edward Waite, also 33rd degree, teaches the Mason to pray in his book, the Book of Ceremonial Magic, or the Book of Black Magic and Pacts. I don't like reading things like this out loud because it kind of freaks me out, but I know by the grace of God he'll protect me. Here we go. The Mysteries of Infernal Evocation. First conjuration addressed to the Imperior Lucifer. Master and I really don't like, I just don't want to read this. I'm sorry. I just really seriously don't. That kind of freaks me out a little bit. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So I'm not going to read that prayer. Just not going to do it. So skipping that. And in his second conjuration, invocation, on page 247, Waite writes, I'm just not going to do that either. I'm sorry. You know what? I don't think it's important for us to even know that prayer or whatever. Conjuration, invocation, whatever craziness. Anyway, I will now provide proof of Luciferian within Freemasonry and say more on this doctrine in the next 3 chapters. And I'm going to end that there. Next time we will pick up in chapter 39. I do apologize, but I'm just not interested in doing no invocation or whatever it's called. I'm not, we don't play things like that. I won't, at least. You can buy the book yourself and read it for yourself out loud if you want to. I ain't doing it. So anyway, keep your eyes on Jesus, brothers and sisters. Your nose in the book, which is the Word of God. And let us embed the Word of God upon the tablets of our hearts so we will not sin against God or be deceived. And you got to be careful, brothers and sisters, what you let your eyes see, your ears hear, and your mouth speak. Guard your soul at all costs. That's the way I look at it. I love you all. Bye-bye.